Hello everybody, Andrew Casey at Hypersanity Books. Today we're taking a look at the novelization to Resident Evil. There is a lot of pointless material within the book, seeing it's a novelization to the movie. However, some novelizations can support films, and in this case, there's a lot of backstories to characters who are going to die. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at the characters who are going to die in the novelization. Number 1. Lisa Addison. See, in the movie, her name is Lisa Addison, as some of the text shows and credits. Then, within the novelization, her surname has changed. The Lisa character is the sister to the Matt character, and the story opens up with a guy named Aaron, who's a wealthy person trying to bring down Umbrella. And Matt can't do it because of his US Marshal background, because that's going to check out.
Matthew Addison. I'm not getting a match.
Who are you?
So within the story, the Matt character can't infiltrate Umbrella but gets his sister to. Now with the sister, there's a lot of pointless backstory, because 6 years ago she was going to apply to work for Umbrella, but she couldn't because she had a sick mother-in-law. She was married, going through hardships, and eventually mother-in-law dies, she gets divorced, and needs a different career change. So yeah, she ends up working for the Umbrella Corporation into head of security. Now, within certain background checks, Umbrella don't check out her brother. They also don't check out that one of her close friends was killed by Umbrella years ago and were given hush money by the families. So there are some parts of backstories that add into the story, though it doesn't keep a consistent flow of story to the film. Now with the novelization, I do want to make a point clear. Half the book is starting off with background checks. Number 2, Dr. Barr.
You're all going to die down here.
There's a university professor where Lisa is the only student from his class who gets an A. It's one of the reasons why Umbrella wanted her so bad. Not just because of her grades, but because he was the person who supposedly created the AI program for the Red Queen. Now with that artificial intelligence, that backstory changes from book to book and movie to movie, I would assume. So it explains that he created the artificial intelligence side of the Red Queen. So within this part of the story, Lisa also learns from him with having tighter security, where everyone has to change their password every 8 days for extra security, in hopes that they'll forget or have problems. So whether trying to help certain co-workers or seeing classified information, there's ways of her being able to obtain certain evidence because of her position. So there were certain parts you could say with the story, it has something to add to it in one way, and in another way it is a lot of pointless backstory if you are doing a comparison. Number 3, Alice Abernathy. So with the story, Spencer has now become Percival. I know there's a Spencer character within the franchise from the original video games, and I think from there it's trying to change some sort of background. I know they mention the mansion within the book and film as well, compared to the possible same mansion that's in the other games. It's not certain on which mansion is what, because there were different mansions within the vicinities. So that's not quite clarified within the story. Though adding that to Alice, that her name is Alice Abernathy, sounds a little bit strange. Some of the words and names within the novelization are a little bit out there and somewhat foreign. Number 4, amnesia flashbacks or TMI.
I have access to security codes, surveillance plans, the works. But there's going to be a price.
With the amnesia flashbacks, it is quite obvious that Alice and Lisa do meet up, and from time to time having secret meetings, explaining things to how they're going to try to bring down the Hive. There's also the Spencer character who is more than aware of what they're doing. It also shows with some of the flashbacks is, yes, they did have a fake marriage and also had some passionate love. So with the TMI part, there is some other scenes that are added into this novelization where they rip each other's clothes off and have several hours of the best sex. So there is a bit of a TMI to the descriptions. And Alice and Lisa also meet out to compare different things between New York food, because Alice prefers New York cuisine over Raccoon City cuisine. And it gets into too many descriptions, and I feel like the novelization just dragged out. So even though the flashback amnesia cutscenes can be annoying in a film, or within a book it can be faster pace. Number 5, too much backstory. So with the Hive, to where the movie starts, halfway through the book we're being introduced to certain characters and they're not necessary, so I'll just try to touch through to get as quick as I can. Though this character with the coffee, his name is Mark. He loves his coffee without a lid on because it's too hot. He also loves his uncle who died recently in a car crash, talks about his sister. He gets into more details about 3 best friends that are all unemployed that meet once a week for movie night. So there are some different things within the book that have so much characterization and details to characters that are about to die. There is a bit more internal dialogue where this other lady actually has a name in the novelization. In the credits, she's just called Miss Black. Very creative. Then you have Commando 1 and 2, which actually have names in the novelization. And I do see where it adds some sort of human element into a story when you name something, but then when they are characters that are going to die, sometimes there can be a different way of describing a character within a group before they do meet their demise. It just depends on the pace of story, and if there is any necessary background story to have to the characters that are introduced. They even talk about these two, where they have a relationship that's on and off. So within the story, yes, he is also obsessed with Britney Spears, and after a few things that I have looked into, Britney Spears with Hit Me Baby One More Time didn't come out till September 29th. The Resident Evil story of Resident Evil 2 and 3 is September 28th. So the incident is supposed to be before that time in 1998. So even though the film came out in 2002, this novelization was written in 2004, there is some different points within the story to where does this actually fit if he is obsessed with Britney Spears before she was famous for being a teenage singer. Kind of makes me think that is quite cringeworthy, consider that Britney Spears was famous with Disney in her preteen years. Number 6, Major Timothy Kane. So this guy in Resident Evil Apocalypse makes his appearance within the book, who assembles the characters who go into the Hive, Agent 1 and so on. I don't mind how some of this integrates into the book. I do see how a novelization can work and support a movie with a different perspective, though I think the problem with the inconsistencies, it's like when I reviewed the Ghostbusters novelization. The first movie and book novelization, when you compare deleted scenes, oh my gosh, it was really something cringeworthy. Though the novelization, compared to deleted scenes in original scripts, was written by a different author, and I found the Ghostbusters 2 novelization was more enjoyable. I think in this sense, there is a part where it can work, and there is some inconsistencies that don't work, because there are too many people who collaborate on the project. Other backstories come into the character where he kills his brother-in-law for cheating on his sister. Another brother works in the Chicago part as head of security for Umbrella. There are some other things connected to the character that happen within other family dynamics. And again, so much backstory to each character. And unless they're projecting for more books ahead or movies, depends which way they tie in, it can just be too much information for the novelization. Number 7, final thoughts. I don't really recommend the book unless you're a huge Resident Evil fan if you're looking for some more backstory. Though, in short, the amnesia scenes with the flashbacks, I know it irritated a lot of people. It works better for the story within the film. Within the book, we're wasting too much time. And as I said again, pointless backstories to characters that are going to die anyway. Sometimes it's a change in perspective, but the parts that were boring for the film were touched on within the novelization, and I think that's where the biggest letdown is. Also, inconsistencies from book to book, I'm not sure. I will be reviewing the other Resident Evil novelizations, but that is another story.